This episode is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Petit Building Products. Petit Building Products has been providing contractors and builders with the supplies necessary to complete their jobs since 1964. They have built a reputation of honest, helpful, and quality service, serving the HRM for the last 58 years, now with 7 locations in Nova Scotia and 1 in New Brunswick. Our team at Atlantic Construction Podcast is extremely excited to announce our new co-branded partner, Procore. Procore is the global leader in construction management software. We'll be conducting several podcast episodes with Procore users and construction companies across the country in 2023, among many other things. Stay tuned. We're excited. Welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. We're here on site at BuildGreen Atlantic at the Halifax Convention Center, and I'm joined by Janet Tobin with EfficiencyOne, Efficiency Nova Scotia. Thank you so much, Janet, for taking a few minutes to sit with us.
Yeah, thanks. This is great.
Yeah, it's really a great event, and obviously, efficiency is a big part of organizing the event. Maybe could you tell us a little bit about, Efficiency Nova Scotia, your role in BuildGreen Atlantic, what it means for you as an organization, and maybe some of the members of your organization who helped pull this whole thing together.
Yeah, for sure. So at Efficiency Nova Scotia, we help residential homeowners and businesses make energy efficiency upgrades that ultimately reduce their energy use, reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, and lower their energy bills. Today we're here in a way to support, mostly looking at our industry and capacity building. A lot of the folks that are here today work within the green clean tech sector.
Yep.
A lot of them are members of our Efficiency Preferred Partner Network.
Yes.
So it's great to see everyone here to learn more about, kind of what the future holds for the green built environment.
Absolutely. And we've had some of your preferred partners stop by, and they were kind of informing us about what it means to be a preferred partner with Efficiency Nova Scotia, where they're getting that support and that help on educational materials and applying for funding and grants for their clients. Maybe just tell us a little bit about the preferred partner, because a lot of the booths here and people here are preferred partners, like you said.
For sure, yeah. So if you catch Linda Munden later, she's your gal to stop to for sure. But I can give you a quick overview. So the Efficiency Preferred Partner Network is a collective of, I think, over 300 partners across the entire province. 50% of those actually operate outside of Halifax.
Okay.
And they work with homeowners and businesses to actually help do the work. So whether it's installing heat pumps and putting in insulation, doing energy modeling, things like that. And so working with us, it provides that kind of directory of places that homeowners and businesses can go to find contractors to help, complete that work. But within that group as well, we do a lot of training through ASHRAE, through other pieces to help these businesses, build and grow themselves and figure out what the next new thing is, what the next technology, learn more about things like building codes, and just get the training they need. It's a pretty open relationship. So if we're hearing from our partners that there's training that they want, then Linda and her team will work, with the groups to figure out how we can bring that training to them.
Yeah, it sounds like very collaborative facilitating of, new research, new education, all around, your partners, whether they're a contractor, a supplier, so many different facets, but just a huge hub to kind of carry forward on the path to net zero, on the path to green energy, on the path to energy savings.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we do all have to work together. We can't, our programs wouldn't exist without homeowners to utilize them and take advantage of them. Our homeowners, of course, need our incentives and rebates in order to, kind of subsidize the cost of that work that they have to do. But also, we certainly couldn't do it without industry. So important for us to, help industry grow and adapt to new technologies and learn from them and learn from, their peers as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's got to be a satisfying feeling for your team with EfficiencyOne, Efficiency Nova Scotia, to be here at an event like this and to see the turnout, to be collaborating with BuildGreen Atlantic and to see so many different companies and backgrounds, many from out of province, many from Central Canada, and all kinds from Nova Scotia, just to see everyone's obviously, forefront of their thinking is to take this energy
for sure
thing to the next level.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. It's a sold out crowd here today, which is amazing. I'm getting the vibe it'll be even bigger next year. I think people are excited to be able to come back and do events like this after the past few years of not being able to. But also it's just an exciting time in the industry. There's lots of funding out there. There's lots of training opportunities. We're seeing, government at all levels support more incentives and rebates for homeowners and for businesses. And with that comes needing to grow the industry. So it's just a really, really exciting time. And, it's nice to be able to look ahead and kind of know that, the next, 10, 15 years, are going to be really, really, really exciting.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Janet, for stopping for a few minutes to chat with us. It's been great.
Thanks. All right. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. We're here on site at BuildGreen Atlantic at the Halifax Convention Center. And I'm joined by Maddison Schimpf.
Schimpf, yeah. It's a hard one.
No, it's not bad. Mine's harder. Arsenal. Maddison is with the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables with the provincial government of Nova Scotia. Maddison, we were kind of talking earlier about just your personal journey. One of the things that we try and do is shed light on different people from different backgrounds in the industry, whether it's energy, whether it's a government organization or a contractor, and just tell us a little bit about your story, your journey in the industry. You mentioned you went to NSCC, did a 2-2 with there, and what university again? The Mount.
The Mount, yeah.
So tell us, because you were in sciences and then you went into business. So I assume you have a bit of maybe entrepreneurial spirit, perhaps.
Maybe. So in high school, I was really drawn to sciences, did really well in sciences. So I just figured I'll do science in university. So I went to Acadia University and did a few years there for a science degree and decided that wasn't overly my passion, wasn't really sure what job I could get out of it. I wasn't really interested in working in a lab, anything like that. So I decided to take some time off. And I started working actually at a locally owned small sailing store. And they expressed that I had a knack for business. So I was like...
So you're a people person?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I've always been in customer service type of roles and stuff like that. So I do like talking to people. And they, expressed that I had a knack for business. So I decided, why not try the NSCC business program?
And you didn't feel that before like they
Never.
kind of pinpointed that, so they kind of extracted it out of you?
But pretty much, the owners, I never, ever had an interest in business. I never thought about going the business route. And I just decided to do NSCC because it's just a 2-year program. And I figured even if I don't love it, it's 2 years, I can get through it. So I finished the 2 years, fell in love with business, especially like leadership type classes were ones that really resonated with me.
So do you remember at what point, so you leadership classes, was there certain kind of milestones you remember thinking like, this is it for me, this is what I want to do?
Honestly, pretty much right away.
Right away?
Right away, I was like, wow, this is a whole new world.
I feel like business, I've taken business, I've graduated from UPEI, I did a semester at St. Mary's, and I think like it's one of them things, it is kind of generic, you do a lot of electives and stuff, but it comes to your typical accounting, business development, finance, all that kind of stuff. But I guess, even just the first little bit, you're getting a feel for it, you knew that.
Yeah, pretty much right away. I knew that I really, really enjoyed it. And I guess in high school, business wasn't overly offered. So I didn't really even know. So I think that's why it took me so long to find that route, because I just didn't know.
Right. I think there's almost a little bit of a stigma there too, because like you did sciences for a bit, and probably like people would have sciences up on maybe not a pedestal, but a certain status. Whereas business is a little bit more broad. I'm just taking a business degree because I don't really know what I want to do.
Right.
Yeah, so there's that factor too.
Everybody doesn't know what they want to do because it takes a business degree. True,
What are you going to do after? You get thousands of different avenues you can take.
Right. So. Yeah, and that's kind of what I learned. So I still have that love for science. Which is still
going to play a benefit in your career, and I'm sure it is with your role.
I still have that love for science and business. So when those two worlds are meshed together, that's really where I'm happiest.
Right. And would you say, like, with your role now with the Department of Renewables and Natural Resources, that's kind of the situation you're in, where there's the science side and the business development side?
And honestly, I kind of forgot about that love for sciences until I started with this position. And then I was like, this is like my world. This is exactly where I want to be.
That's awesome. It's so satisfying. To be involved in something that you love where you're going to work.
I've actually been even thinking about like going back and just finishing my science degree again. And
because you're 3 years completed, right?
I would also have a bunch of electives finished already from the Mount.
So
I assume it wouldn't.
Finish online.
For sure. I actually finished my business degree online as well, and it was great.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into the event we're at today, you know, BuildGreen Atlantic, a lot of talk about the path to net zero and green construction, and with your role, business development and marketing with the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables, and that combination between science and business, where an event like this is only one part of it, right? We've got to get out, talk to each other, network, be connected, collaborate, but we're only as good as the technology, the science behind the building products and the methods. And
it all takes time.
So perfect event to encapsulates your personal journey as well.
Yeah, it's been really good. And this event it was an amazing turnout. I wasn't overly sure because they haven't had one since, I believe, 2018, 2019, since before COVID. Yeah. So we weren't sure of the turnout, but it's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm very impressed.
Yeah. A lot of people here from different backgrounds. You mentioned tomorrow you're going to another event. I think you said it was at NSCC. One of the things we're trying to do at Atlantic Construction Podcast and AC Media is just kind of shed light on the industry, what it means to be in the industry, all the different players, the vast amount of different people involved, different backgrounds, to make these buildings and ICI construction come to life. Tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing tomorrow at NSCC for the students there. Yeah, so tomorrow they're actually
it's with Skills Canada, they're having a skills competition there. And so there's multiple different sectors, I suppose.
For trades, or what's the skills competition for? Many different trades.
Many different. Right. So I actually went to Picto, the NSCC Picto skills competition last week, and they had 5, I believe. Hairdressing was one of them. Mechanics, they had a bunch of different ones, electrical. So they do competitions. Carpentry. So they do a bunch of different ones, and then I guess the top competitors from there go to the national competitions and so forth and so on. So tomorrow we're setting up an exhibitor similar to this, and we'll talk to the students and the teachers and just kind of spread word about some programs we have going on. And then we'll also do a tour throughout NSCC to see the competition, see how everybody's going and things like that. Just,
Amazing.
Yeah, no,
that's awesome. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
It's been great to meet and chat with you here today. Thanks for stopping by, spending a few minutes with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to hear a little about your personal journey, and we'll look forward to our audience taking a listen in.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cheers. Okay, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. We are here on site at the BuildGreen Atlantic at the Halifax Convention Center, and I'm joined by Charline Cormier from EastPoint. Charline, thanks for taking a few minutes to sit with us.
You're welcome. Yes.
So you were telling me, from New Brunswick, born and raised.
In a small town called Capellet, a fishing village of 5,000 people. So I grew up on a farm by the ocean, very sustainable, eating a lot of local elements, and, then eventually moved to a bigger city in Halifax, where the construction world is a little bit more challenging and, a little bit bigger. So basically my father and grandfather and his father were all constructors. They were all construction builders, yes. Okay. Mostly residential. So that's where I got into it. So
sort of passed down.
Exactly.
Which I feel like it is for a lot of people.
Yes. I mean, I can't really build anything. I can only design it or critique it.
Hey, that part is important too, right? We're all in this together. We all have different gifts.
Exactly. When I want something built, I call my father. There still. Yeah. So when I know I'm just going to do it right. Yes.
Absolutely.
So I guess I've been working at EastPoint since 2019. So I'm the sustainability manager at EastPoint. Okay. And I've been in the construction field for about 30 years, so that gives you approximately
working as an architect or
my background is architectural technologist.
Okay,
so I've always worked in the architectural field.
Yes.
I've mostly worked with architectural firms in the past, and in the last probably 10 years, I've kind of worked more in the sustainable world with architects and engineers, because I realized that my passion was more about sustainable construction and green buildings.
Right.
So, and in 2004, I moved to Bermuda. So that was kind of an interesting, eye-opening thing, living on an island where everything is brought in, and things are not as, you would think an island would have to be sustainable, but not always. So it was kind of a little bit of eye-opening. And then it made me even though the weather was great, I appreciate Canada for a lot of different reasons.
Okay.
I still don't like the snow, but, I appreciate...
Like they say, culture is a great education, isn't it?
Exactly. So then when I came back, I worked for another company, and then I just went into EastPoint. And I guess at EastPoint, I mean, we're a consulting firm. We do architectural engineering, you know. But the thing is, we have a specialized team that does energy and sustainability. And we have a good core team that we do a lot of specialized kind of, elements like carbon neutral studies. We're doing a lot of like studies and like, we do commissioning, recommissioning. And right now we're finding we're kind of like trying to invent a lot of things because there's a lot of times that people want results and we have to kind of figure out how to get there. So it's a little bit challenging.
Yeah, can you elaborate on commissioning? We were
Yes.
talking earlier about
Yes.
maybe it's comparable to, say, a building sciences group, a third party coming in to test, to help with the design. Tell us a little bit about commissioning.
So
the term.
so commissioning is not new, but people are starting to realize why it's important. So we have a team that does systems commissioning, so mechanical, electrical system, which my coworkers do, like electrical and mechanical engineers. I do building envelope commissioning. So the process is kind of the same. So basically, we're third party, independent from the design team. A lot of times we're hired by the client, which could be a building owner or it could be like the province. It could, we do a lot of schools,
Public,
or we
private.
do private, or hospitals. So the advantage that people are starting to realize is that we're like an extra step to quality check. We can't basically, we're not the designer. So what we do is with our specialized team, we review the design. And we're not there to critique their work. We're there to maybe like, oh, well, did you think of, like, we're there to advise them. Like,
Right.
maybe.
Not necessarily as an inspector.
No, and we're just there to say like,
Or
oh, well,
appraise.
maybe if you do this, then, this might be a better way. So we're
Right.
there kind of as a second quality check. So
Okay.
we're there during the design process. And that's where clients,
Right, so early on.
Yes, because the issue is, you want to catch this in the design. If you're catching this during construction, it's going to cost
Too late.
more.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then that's
Money's already spent
and it's-
by the general, the owner, the sub.
Exactly. So that's why
Problem.
owners have to be educated and realizing the benefit of commissioning
Yeah.
is during the design,
Right.
where you still can change things
Yeah.
that maybe could help your systems, but not like cost
Yeah,
you money.
Not just help in the form of construction, but help in the cost to operate the building for 60 years after.
Exactly. So
Right.
that's where our team comes in, and then.
Yeah.
Now, building envelope commissioning, which is part of if you're doing a lead building, it's one of the credits, the same as commissioning. So it's becoming more popular because of that. But I'm even doing building envelope commissioning for non-lead projects.
Right.
So, for example, construction now is going really fast.
Yeah.
And, the client sometimes, it's hard for clients to be educated or like understand.
You just can't know everything but everything. right?
Exactly.
And that's why, you mentioned commissioning is like adding another step, another safety net, if you will, in the process to catch these things before they cost money. It makes me think about, like, are there situations in public or private where you are necessary in a healthcare job, like that commissioning is actually in the spec as part of the design process?
Yes.
You need to be there.
Yes.
Because I feel like there's a lot of projects where you should be there and you're not.
Well, that's the thing. Like, for example, I think the province understands, like, government kind of understands the need. So, like, we're doing a lot of healthcare facilities because, like,
So are you involved in some of the large healthcare facilities that are
Yes,
happening
we are.
now? The
Yes.
IWK expansion,
Yes,
Bears Lake Hospital, that's a new build.
Yes, so we're probably like either an envelope or either like system commissionings.
Okay.
We're kind of involved in a lot of them and most of them. And the issue is, it's like, imagine, you're building a shiny new building and your envelope leaks or your system fails. You can't afford to shut down a wing of a hospital.
No.
So having the commissioning is an extra step to quality to ensure that your building is like running as it should be, because we're there, like, commissioning is during design, then kind of when the systems get started up. So basically you're there to kind of witness everything, make sure they're operating as they should be before the building is occupied. So in the same thing as like envelope. So I'm during design, during construction, making sure it's built as it's supposed to be built. And then we hire third parties to do envelope testing.
Yes.
And a lot of times, the contractor built it like it was designed. We do a water test and it leaks. Well, it's just one little thing but it's better to do it now than when you have the building completed, because then it's going to cost a lot
And I
more.
think that to myself, like, again, with limited knowledge, like, it's hard to know everything, but when it comes to something like building envelope, it's such a vast effort. There's so many different ingredients and assemblies for our values, and then your windows and your penetrations and your transitions and scope, and then it comes to the roof. It's why not have commissioning involved all the time?
Well,
right?
I mean,
you almost need to.
I mean, yes, I mean, of course, it's for a fee, but I mean, at the long run, it's kind of like, it eases the client's mind, like, okay, like, like if you want to find issues during construction, and as well now, like the new energy code coming out, there is a lot of emphasis on envelope leakage, air leakage. So that's going to be very, you're not. Building owners are going to have to do envelope testing to see what is their, what is their envelope air leakage. Because you could like design a whole building, have shiny new systems, but what if your envelope is leaking? Then your systems are not running properly or overrunning because of that.
Yeah.
So,
And it's a big endeavor. I mean, as a GC, with site super on site, and then your subcontractors that are involved in envelope trades like cladding and glazing, roofing, it's hard enough to keep everything under wraps as far as the scope transitions and just making sure things are done right. It's not that subcontractors aren't competent. Yes, they are. It's not that the GC's not overlooking and overseeing with project management. Yes, they are. But it's just such a big undertaking for some of these major public jobs, especially in healthcare. It's just to have that extra set of eyes, that mutual third party is helpful to keep people accountable. And I think they want to be held accountable. Right?
Exactly. And
they
building,
want to do it right.
Yeah, and building systems like mechanical systems and envelope systems are not getting simpler. They're getting more complicated. You have new systems that maybe people like, contractors or subcontractors are not familiar with.
Yeah.
So things are always evolving. So, a lot of times a contractor, they hire all the subs and they put it together, but it's like just making sure that like the process and the way things are being installed is done properly. And so it's a lot of coordination.
Yeah, and again, tying into the event we're at here today, I mean, there's so many different service companies here, different companies that are selling products, non-for-profit organizations, educational-based organizations, so many different people collaborating. And I think, it goes to the same thing within the building process. Like, subcontractors are involved in this. Yes, they want to price their work and get it done as fast as they can, but they're aware, then they need to be aware of the different methods and the testing and these kinds of things when it comes to building envelope, and make sure they allow enough to do that work with the extra time it's going to take to do it right. And I think the more we keep having events like this, the more we're going to educate people on, whether it's an estimator for a subcontracting company, whether it's management with a general contractor or a PM, whether it's developers and the products they should be using, and then having people like yourself kind of keep people accountable, commissioning the building envelopes. There's so many different perspectives and different avenues here that everyone needs to be on the same page on.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the thing. We want to design and build buildings that'll be there for a long time. So you want to make sure that, your building is durable. It's it's not just about the products you put in, but how do they go in together? Because you could have the best products, but if they're not interacting to each other as they should be, then they can still fail. So it's understanding how everything goes together. So, at the end of the day, it's making sure everybody works together to kind of have the best outcome. Because I mean, at the end of the day, the contractor doesn't want to come back because there's a leak. Like it's not beneficial to anybody because everybody loses in the end. So at the end of the day, we work a lot with the designers, but also the contractors. Like they actually like having us there because
it's not like they see you as a threat.
No, and we're there. Like we work with them. Like because like some guys or girls that are on site, they have on-site experience, and sometimes they're like, oh, well, they come up with details, and I'm like, well, actually, that works better. And so it's not about like, it's about.
That's amazing to see design professionals and then trade professionals working together. I think a lot of times we don't have the openness and the collaboration levels that we need. And for those two different kinds of people, maybe different competencies, different temperaments, but yeah, if we can find a way to continue that, and that's refreshing to hear, right? Because we can make each other better. Right?
Exactly.
We're different, but we need each other.
Like I find that I'm kind of that gap. Like your designers, like they always like to.
You're kind of the middle guy, the middleman.
Like I'm independent, and I'm like, okay, like the detail is good, but like sometimes because contractors have a lot to bring, and they're like on site, they see where the failures are. I'm like, I always take their like recommendations, and then like it's like kind of a middle ground, because they're accountable if it fails, so they don't want to provide a solution.
And they take a lot of pride in what they do. And I mean, you're talking about 90% of them very confident, been doing these different trades for 20 years. And very talented in their own right.
And then now the biggest challenge, I think, is because like everybody else, it's kind of finding the right basically people to do this work and training them. And so because there's a boom in construction, but there's like a lack of personnel. I think
labor shortage is a huge thing, right?
Exactly. So that's why I think having that extra set of eyes just kind of like enforces.
Absolutely. And also training these employees, the ones that are kind of mid-level, maybe 10 years experience, the journeyman, first, second, the apprenticeship people as well, men and women, because there's new methods now, right? For building sustainable. There's going to be, someone was mentioning, I think either at this event or maybe before, about a not a red seal, but a green seal. Knowing how to, conduct maybe building envelope practices that are really sustainable. So things like that, right, tie into what you're speaking about.
Well, exactly, because I mean, there's now with, like I said, with the new energy code, there's like, our value requirements. There's like air leakage. There's all these different requirements. So it's like for a contractor, it's like, well, how? Like the designers are still responsible to kind of like meet those requirements, but the contractor has to be also knowledgeable to understand how it all ties in.
Absolutely.
So it's, it's working together and not like kind of like, fighting each other, but it's like, making the end result, you want a good building, durable building that will be energy efficient, and they will be there for many years.
Amazing. Well, Charline, in closing, you are in a position for sustainability with EastPoint. You have a background, in architectural technology. You're at an event like BuildGreen Atlantic here at the Halifax Convention Center. What's your feeling of excitement for the future when you see people gathering onward to the path to net zero and green building with the kind of the atmosphere today?
Well, I have to say I've been involved. I was chair of the Canada Green Build Atlantic chapter for a few years. So I've been involved in a lot of past green buildings and past events. And the last one was in 2019. And from just looking at 2019 to today, we have doubled the capacity of people here. I mean, yes, people want to kind of gather because of COVID, but I think, people are starting to realize how necessary it is. It's not like, oh, it's a good thing to do. No, it's necessary. Yeah. So, I've been preaching this for like over 10 years, and now I feel like, oh my God, like people are like, we have to do it. So it's here, it's now. We're already too late, but like we have to do it. So I think now everybody's like, we got to do it. So I feel a little bit more positive that people are kind of like want to do it, but now we're like, oh, we have to do it. So I think we're getting there, like slowly. It's, it'll take time, but at least now people are listening and they're like realizing, this is not a nice to do, it's a must do.
Right. Amazing. Well, Charline, thank you so much for taking some time with us here today, and really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, Daniel Arsenault.
Quick shout out to the newest sponsor of the show, the Stone Depot. The Stone Depot is located in Bears Lake, Halifax, but serves all of the East Coast. The showroom over 8,000 square feet, perfect for masonry contractors, landscaping contractors, builders, developers. Regardless, the Stone Depot is a great option for you, whether you're doing fire pits, patio stones, kitchen and interior stones. So if you're looking for a great stone supplier, visit the Stone Depot. This episode is brought to you by Airtight Spaces. Airtight Spaces is Atlantic Canada's first authorized aero barrier dealer. They help create comfortable, healthy, and durable living environments with the added benefit of energy efficiency. Air sealing is a critical step towards net zero buildings. Using air pressure to automatically guide sealing guarantees the highest quality results in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort. If air sealing is important to you, you can visit Airtight Spaces at www.airtightspaces.com. Pivot Bookkeeping is your one-stop shop and customizable bookkeeping, tax, and filing service. With Pivot, you have the peace of mind knowing your taxes are always filed on time and your bookkeeping is reconciled often. Using their non-proprietary software and applications, all of your business finances are securely handled by their local account managers. Pivot takes great pride in providing you with unlimited support and a direct line to your account managers right here in Nova Scotia. Whether you're an established business looking for new options and increase efficiency, or a newer company looking to build a solid foundation for future growth, Pivot has a product that can be modified to your needs. Consider making the pivot today. Book a free consultation at pivotbookkeeping.com.
Welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast, here on site at the BuildGreen Atlantic event at the Halifax Convention Center. I'm joined here by Willem Paynter with EMCO Applied. Willem, thanks for stopping by for a few minutes to chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been quite a day. Lots of great speakers and conversations. Would you agree?
Yeah. Did you get out to any of the
So
sessions?
I wasn't able to take in any of the seminars, but I've heard some feedback. We're kind of stuck here at the booth, doing lots of interviews. But I've heard that they were great. How about yourself?
Well, we have a booth as well, but I did manage to sneak away for a couple, and
Nice.
I enjoyed them.
So tell us a little bit about EMCO, about the products that you rep.
Sure.
So
EMCO started out as a plumbing and HVAC wholesaler. We've got over 200 locations across Canada. In the Maritime provinces, we function more as a manufacturer's rep. So we rep the Daikin Applied line. So we sell products, HVAC products, for commercial and institutional buildings. As small as a single mini split up to a 2,800 ton chiller.
Right.
We do custom air handlers, water source heat pumps,
Right.
Self-contained ERVs,
Yeah.
packaged rooftop units.
With an installation element as well to the business, or
No, it's purely
supplier.
B2B. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you're
so
carrying some different lines, or mainly?
Yeah, we have a handful of lines. We also rep system air,
Okay.
which would be like ERVs, also air handling, more of a
Yes.
modular air handling unit,
Yeah.
and again, rooftop ERVs. And we have a couple of ancillary lines as well.
Okay.
Fans, grills,
Yes.
diffusers,
Yeah.
all that sort of things. And we partner with our plumbing location to do stuff like pumps, and
Right.
buffer tanks, that kind of thing.
Right. What's your pulse right now on supplying some of these mechanical contractors in Atlantic Canada for installation and things like that, for just the industry and different product lines? Are you finding that we're going to be looking at some new products that come in, some products that are current that might be outdated as far as like our path to
Sure.
net zero, that kind of thing? What does it mean for business?
Yeah, I think the big conversation right now is around electrification. I think there's also an inverterization piece of that pie that's a little coming up more and more. VRF is a huge experiencing a huge boon in the Halifax market right now. Like a lot of the multi-res projects are going with VRF. In terms of new products, I would say that VRF is primarily the big takeaway from that. So we rep Daikin VRV or VRF. It's everybody else calls it VRF. Daikin calls it VRV. They were the first to market in 1982. So it stands for variable refrigerant volume, kind of a mini split that, or a ductless system. It can be ducted, but it's basically a lot of indoor units to one outdoor unit, without necessarily having ductwork or without running hydronic piping or anything through your building.
Right.
So that's a really big player in the market right now.
Sure.
Was that kind of your question? You mentioned
for
supplying people. I thought we were going to touch on supply chain issues, but maybe
Yeah.
that's
Well, I mean,
conversation for another day.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think, it can be. I mean, supply chain issues, I think, across the board, since 2020 and all the things that happened since then are a big issue. How do you find logistics now, looking ahead?
Depends on the products.
It depends on the products.
Yeah.
And depends on the building that's being priced, the contractor, what's spec'd.
Totally.
A lot of variables, right?
Absolutely. In terms of inventory, we invested a lot in inventory. As soon as the pandemic hit, we saw kind of the writing on the wall, and we brought in a lot of stock. So we have a lot of stuff. And in Halifax, we have about combined 100,000 square feet of warehouse that's stocked full of stuff. The lead time issues really come up when you're doing more custom built to order products. So a good example of that would be like a custom air handler. Because of all of these various supply chain issues, shortage of truckers,
Yes.
overfilled ports, commodity price increases, shortage of microchips, getting a container freighted from China costs 30 times more than what it did in 2018.
Yeah.
all the culmination of that has resulted in and labor shortages due to COVID. You know, at one point there was 25% of factory workers in the States were not on the shop floor because of COVID.
Yeah, and this is the thing. We look at labor shortage a lot within our media, which we're kind of on the front end of construction. And what I mean by that term is the contractors, the general contractors, the builders. Yeah. But on the manufacturing side, the labor shortage problem is a very real thing as well, right?
Absolutely.
It's going to bleed into the supply of various products in manufacturing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with an event like today, a company like EMCO repping the lines that you do in the mechanical HVAC realm, what's the feel you get, for the goal today and the path to net zero? Any kind of thoughts that kind of just sum up what it's meant for you to be here and some of the conversations you've had?
Yeah, it's been a great networking event.
Yeah.
Halifax is a relatively small community, really, when you think about industry. Yeah. So it's great to reconnect with people. It's great to meet new people, and it's I think it sets us up for a great 2023 with all of the connections in this industry.
Awesome. Well, I hope appreciate your time and stopping to talk with us for a few minutes.
Thank you.
We'll hope that some of our audience members are some contractors and some other kinds of people that might reach out.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. We're here on site at BuildGreen Atlantic, and we're at the Halifax Convention Center. And I'm here with David Squires from Rothoblaas. David, thank you for taking a few minutes to sit and
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So it's been a great event. You were just mentioning that you were over at the booth with the guys from Atlantic Woodworks.
Absolutely.
And it ties in with Rothoblaas kind of initiative when it comes to mass timber, and you're providing all kinds of building products, building technology, fasteners for that realm. Kind of give us a little bit of the overall spiel on Rothoblaas.
Well,
you're the only rep here in Atlantic, Canada, and this is a manufacturing company that's worldwide and based in Europe, is it? Or?
Yeah, it's we're based in northern Italy.
Okay.
For the past 30 years, we're a privately held company. Currently, we're in 72 different countries. So we have a global footprint, and mass timber has always been the roots of Rothoblaas, and
and in those 72 different countries, unlike Canada, and certainly unlike Atlantic Canada, mass timber is tradition.
It is,
right?
It is, and we're starting to see it. It's creeping its way into our corner of the world in Atlantic Canada. Yeah, and slowly but surely, every year we're starting to see some increases in the number of projects that are coming out, and if the industry is able to stay on budget and work with the engineers and all the design people, projects come to fruition, and they happen.
Yes.
So it's our job and our role as manufacturers and distributors to make sure that happens and to keep everybody pulled together. And when that happens, we see projects go up, and with that is great for our sustainable economy and what we're trying to do for our carbon net zero footprint. So it all ties together, and we're starting to see it. It's growing.
Yeah. So David, you're spearheading things for Rothoblaas here in Atlantic Canada. It's a unique market. So other than mass timber, and that's kind of one of the core kind of features with Rothoblaas and the products that you're providing. What are some of the other areas that you're selling in for building products as well on the building envelope side, or roofing products, different things?
Well, right now we're having a lot of conversations, and we're moving a lot of product with window installers. Right. So we sell different types of window tape for air tightness and waterproofing. Okay. Membranes are big right now because even in the non-passive world, people are looking for more of a breathable type of house instead of like back in the 80s when there was the R2000 house, which was buttoned up super tight. Yeah. That no longer really exists. Now it's all about breathability, and with that comes high performance membranes. Yes. So you need that to offset the balance of moisture coming and going out of your house. And same for your roofing system.
Yeah.
You know, you need a good quality barrier underneath your roofing system to allow the same type of thing happening, right? And soundproofing actually now has become a topic of conversation with engineers and architects, because not only traditionally would you use systems in your walls and your ceilings, now it's about vibration. And we offer many products to help alleviate that.
Right.
And
So are we talking about like maybe ceiling system isolators and things like that will?
yeah, for the most part, and a lot of it too would be like under the wall systems, under slab, and because people don't realize as much that even under concrete you're still absorbing and getting a lot of vibration. So, but traditionally it's always came down to dollars and cents, and wherever somebody could cut a corner they probably would. But we're really seeing a change now, and we're starting to see the difference in what people are willing to invest into their properties.
Yeah, you know, David, I feel like when it comes to high performance building products, you know, you're dealing with something that's highly technical, mass volume and logistics for manufacturers to sell all over the place, all over the world, not just in North America. A company like Rothoblaas, probably safe to say, maybe not very well known in Atlantic Canada right now. If you're the only one spearheading this sort of division.
You're right, absolutely.
But yet very well known in very many parts of Europe, where a lot of high performance products come from.
For sure.
Where building methods are far different, where mass timber is not the norm, but it's everywhere.
You're right, and I attended a show a couple of weeks ago in Bolzano, Italy, and it was a high performance type of building supply show, and what you're saying, Dan, is dead on correct. The Rothoblaas is a household name in the construction industry in Europe, right?
Yeah.
And we've been in Canada now for 7 years, and we are doing well. Right. Atlantic Canada is a new market for us.
Well, I think, you know, even that has to be an achievement, thinking about it business-wise, because such a different culture
it is.
Than Europe. I mean, I'm only saying that on the experience of traveling and spending some time in the UK and in Italy and Rome. Like, you know, it's not just a different culture. I mean, the way people do business is far different.
It is far different. And in Europe, they seem to be a lot more accepting of new ideas, new construction methods, and so on and so forth. What we're accustomed to here is, well, my father built it that way, and his father built it that way. And then when I'm showing these people an air barrier, which costs 3 times more than what they're traditionally paying.
It's a tough sell for you.
It is.
You're in a tough spot.
I know.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so critical and crucial for Rothoblaas to find the right customer at the right time with the right project, and, you know,
But it's not the product that's the issue. I mean, you're dealing with a product that's been around, high performance. I mean, you're sure and confident with the product. It's just about kind of making that connection with the future clients.
It's the mindset.
And the mindset.
Yeah, that's what we need to do, and that's what we're fixing across Canada and the United States. We're relatively new into the United States as well, and making some very strong strides there. And but you know, it's coming, and it's coming a little quicker than I thought it would, actually, which is nice, because I've taken companies new to Atlantic before and built out the business, and I think the timing is right for the products that Rothoblaas is selling in Atlantic Canada. So
nice. And you know, we've mentioned some of the different building envelope products that you sell. You know, mass timber. Just on that note, I mean, you know, whether it's fasteners or part of the mass timber installation process, what's your hope as far as the market here? The small steps we're taking in Atlantic Canada for some newer mass timber elements and buildings. I think, you know, the art center that was planned here on the waterfront that got postponed or on hold, or what's happening with it, but there was some mass timber involved there. We had Atlantic Woodworks talking about a project down on Kennard Street, Fowler Baldwin Mitchell's involved with. So when you have a pulse like yourself, what do you think the timeline is before we start to see some more mass timber projects happening here, even in a school or in some institutional buildings? Do you have a feel for that at all?
it's happening now.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing now we're seeing a lot of talk and a lot of activity. And you mentioned like some projects were scheduled and they're either got rescheduled or canceled or whatnot.
Yeah.
And whenever that happens, that's traditionally it boils down to budget. We're over budget.
Yeah.
So, but the conversations we're having now, we never had 5 years ago.
Mhm.
So everybody wants to talk about it. The architects, the design firms, the engineers,
Yeah.
everybody now is really starting to embrace it and talk about it. So
It's embraced right now.
if there's no talk about it, there's no activity, right?
Yeah.
So
that's very positive for
extremely
Rothoblaas.
positive, you know.
Yeah.
And I think if we see next year 7 to 10 half decent sized projects
Yeah.
that will start to come to fruition, that'd be fantastic.
Right.
But we will have conversations about 30. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the odds of the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Get 1
tradition.
in 10, maybe you're doing okay.
It is, and building owners are now becoming a lot more open to talk about it and look at the possibilities and the options of mass timber,
Yeah.
opposed to 5 years ago they wouldn't even
Yeah.
consider it.
I'm going to assume someone like yourself, Dave, you've been around doing this for a long time.
I have.
And you mentioned the open-mindedness. That ties into the event we're at now. I think in closing, like to be at an event talking about green building, net zero, the pathway there with salespeople and reps like yourself, with builders, with installers, with people from nonprofits, Efficiency Nova Scotia, Passive House Canada. I think for someone like me, kind of a millennial, I think there's a lot more open-mindedness and collaboration in the industry. Would you agree with how long a career you've had and with the experience that you have, you see a lot of positive change as far as open-mindedness in the industry as a whole?
I have in the industry as a whole, and Dan, I've really seen it really quickly in the mass timber,
Right.
which in other industries I've never seen it move this fast before,
Right.
and it's quite
Exponentially.
yeah. So it's very very encouraging that this is happening, and
Awesome.
great for our economy, great for our future, and great for our global footprint.
Amazing. Well, David Squires with Rothoblaas, thank you so much for your time. It's nice that we got a chance to chat. Hopefully our audience members who haven't heard of Rothoblaas will get a little bit of a background on the company and the products, and we can send them your way with some tags online. And who knows, maybe we'll see you on the podcast sometime in the future.
Great. Look forward to it, Dan. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Great. Thanks.
Hey, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast, on site at BuildGreen Atlantic at the Halifax Convention Center. I'm joined for a few minutes by Chris Petit with Passive House Canada. Chris, you're in the technical side.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for taking a few minutes to sit and chat with us. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, pleasure to be here.
Can you kind of, our listeners who maybe aren't so familiar with Passive House Canada, a national advocacy group for education within Passive House, is that kind of how you would sum it up?
Yeah, so we really promote high performance buildings, across the country, both in residential and commercial buildings. We have a lot of different building types that are passive houses, so it can be a misnomer, but generally,
Right.
we have offices, we have,
Yes.
Our fire hall, we have,
Could
car
hospitals and
dealership,
schools and things like that be
schools,
included? Yes.
exactly.
So institutional buildings as well are Passive
Yep,
House.
university buildings, dorms, etc.
Okay.
So.
Maybe for context, can we define Passive House, the term, compared to net zero?
Yeah. So generally, net zero is any building that if you add enough renewable energy, you can get to net zero.
Right. Input, output.
Exactly. And so we really want to get down to be as efficient as possible with our renewable energy. Renewable energy is expensive to produce. It's way cheaper. And so economically, it makes sense to do the energy efficiency first. And we focus on the envelope of a building. That envelope is going to last 50 to 100 years, right? Instead of, maybe the mechanical systems, or other systems of the building can last 10, 20 years versus, invest in the envelope.
So it's
really
going to
last
the
you.
airtight envelope, all the aspects of the building envelope, the assemblies, windows, finishes, roof.
Yep. I mean, so we have that super insulated, super airtight construction.
Yeah.
We look at our details, make sure they're thermal bridge free, make sure all the junctions don't have gaps in our insulation or our air barrier.
Yeah.
And then, we make sure we have a good indoor air indoor air quality, good environment on the inside. So we have heat recovery ventilation. So we get that fresh air, but we don't get the penalty, for just exhausting that air after we condition.
Right. Is there any basic standards or variables, numbers, data you could throw out there when you're talking about passive house, to be certified or classified as passive house? What does the envelope need to look like? What's the R value? Can you kind of give us a few of the milestones?
Yeah, depending on the climate, like a cool temperate climate would generally be about an R40 envelope all the way around.
As opposed to R20.
Yeah, and
right.
For a cold climate, generally like an R50. But the passive house standard is really performance-based. It's not prescriptive. It doesn't say you have to have,
right.
This much for the wall, this much for the roof, this much for the floor for insulation. It really lets you have some flexibility and trade-offs. So
right.
As long as you hit
different.
Yeah, as long as you hit the performance targets, you can have trade-offs. Maybe you have a little bit more window area and you add a little bit more insulation here or there,
right.
or you want thinner walls, so you add more to the roof or floor, that sort of thing.
Okay, so traveling here from Toronto, Chris, as a member of Passive House Canada, at an event like this in Atlantic, Canada, what's kind of going through your mind as you're at an event like this? We see Nova Scotia Power here, we see contractors, we see lots of agency reps repping renewable products, LED lighting, all kinds of different avenues and perspectives on net zero. What are your thoughts on Atlantic Canada? I'm not sure how familiar you are with the territory compared to, we have got a different climate here than Ontario, a lot of landlocked areas here, lots of moisture in the air, lots of bodies of water around, lots of precipitation, things like that, high winds, all that kind of stuff.
Yep,
So
I hear you. It's a great event. It's exciting to see so many people here, that it's sold out, lots of interest from all the different people coming to the conference. And we're looking at buildings as a system. If we're going to get there for high performance, we all need to work together, and we need the components, we need those skilled trades, we need the designers, engineers, architects, and it's all about working together. And I really like the collaborative nature of the community here.
Yeah.
So there's great work, there's a great passive house community here, and good projects that have been going up. And as it seems more and more people are coming to this area, you're going to need to have even more demand for it.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for taking a few minutes, Chris, and talking with us. Thanks for making the trip from Toronto. Wish you safe travels back. And it's great to see lots of people from Edmonton Province, from Central Canada, at this event and advocating for net zero. So great.
All right, it's been a pleasure, Daniel.
Pleasure,
Thanks.
Chris. Thank you. Welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. We're here on site at BuildGreen Atlantic at the Halifax Convention Center. And I'm joined now by Tim Duguay with Rework Business Solutions. Thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with me, Tim.
Thanks for your time.
Tell us about your agency. You're repping a lot of products. You're in the office interior space. Give us a little spiel on your business.
So I've been in the rep group now for 8 years, specializing in everything goes into an office. And all my manufacturers are manufacturers that focus on one element. So when we first started talking, we talked about EaselBoard. Yeah. EaselBoard only focuses on acoustic solutions, and that's kind of the fun thing. So what we're doing here today is showcasing the other product they offer. So you have your EaselBoard, which is made of 60% recycled water bottles, and it helps with that absorption. But they also brought in the new biophilic aspect using quiet earth moss. And it's a preserved moss that goes attached to the EaselBoard to kind of help liven up the office spaces.
Okay, so how does the moss as part of the materials work? Is that the kind of like deaden the sound waves? Is it
100%.
Yeah.
The idea is, you think back over the last course of a few years, you had these open offices. So you just had acoustics bouncing off everywhere.
Yes.
So you add the EaselBoard to create the absorption. And the nice thing about the quiet earth moss, it's a softer, it's a more green way to kind of help an office.
Absolutely. And for our listeners in the industry, outside the industry, I'm not familiar with acoustics. So when you're talking about theaters, you're talking about places with high ceilings, how important the acoustic factor is in the design, all kinds of different panels and whatnot to pick from. And EaselBoard is one of those lines that gets a lot of attention, right?
Well, that's why actually one way to bring it up is think of your restaurant. Anytime you and your partner or friends are out at restaurants, how many times have you sat there with that headache because you couldn't hear the person across from you?
Yes.
So a lot of these restaurants today are opening up these fantastic restaurants, great food, great service.
Yeah.
But there's no opportunity to actually have a sit-down conversation because the sound is bouncing so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I feel like in this space right now, I'm not sure everything that's involved in the design. But for this convention space, it's pretty good when it comes to sound, because we're sitting here talking. There's hundreds of people behind us, behind the camera, and the noise is at a good level, right? Good decibels.
It's the nice thing about
NRC ratings. Right?
NRC, that's correct. But that's when you notice. Let's be honest. When they built this place, they probably did not want to have carpet. They probably wanted to have cement because it was going to be polished and gorgeous. But that's a hard surface. Yeah. So that's why you have the soft surface on the carpet, and then you have the panel wall behind us. Right. That's going to add that acoustic sound. Now, and that's why anytime you're dealing with projects that don't have those options, we slide in there with EaselBoard to provide a proper solution. So there's so many projects throughout Atlantic Canada right now that are now coming all specified with EaselBoard.
That's great. And so for our listeners, anyone tuning in, so you mentioned 12 different kind of silos, or 12 different lines that are all kind of in different lines for office space, whether it's acoustic panels and then maybe chairs, tables. Maybe mention some of the different elements involved in the office space that you have covered in all your lines.
Yeah, so all my manufacturers focus on that one key element. So example, Nightingale, they've been making chairs for over 100 years.
Right. One
of the more well-known Canadian companies. And I try to focus on Canadian companies as much as possible. But Nightingale provides some of the best task chairs. The chair is called the CXO. It's known as the most comfortable chair in the world. It's fantastic. I have one in the showroom. I love showing off. And then you have a manufacturer like Borgo. Borgo's a manufacturer also in Ontario, but they make stadium seats. So your typical, right now, there's a bunch of different tenders on the street, or you think about universities.
Yes.
Think of those auditorium settings. Yeah. You have the tablets.
Amphitheaters.
Exactly. And the cool thing about Borgo is they have a new product called the Omni Evolution. So you think of any of your listeners right now who are left-handed. They were told that they had to always sit on the left-hand side of a theater because that's where the left-hand tablets were.
Yeah.
So Borgo created a new product called the Omni Evolution, which uses a tablet from the table behind it. So therefore, the left-hand people don't have to be isolated to the left-hand side. They can sit wherever they want.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it makes me think, I was somewhat involved in the new Dell Arts Center down at the Rebecca Cohen, the new theater, and just remembering some different arts projects, theater projects that you worked on. And when it comes to seating, when it comes to paneling, when it comes to sound clouds and sound panels, and all kinds of different architecture for these different designs, and same thing goes for office spaces. There's so many different partitions and desk units and chairs and models and stuff, like what the thought that goes into it, and then the unique lines that are provided by these manufacturers, right? It's fascinating. Right?
And that's the nice thing about working with a lot of the great architects we have in Atlantic Canada, or designers. They actually start thinking that through.
Yes.
And it's good to use experts who understand that element the best.
Yes, exactly. So right now in the market, in the city here, as a rep, repping all these specific products for office spaces. What's your feel? What's your pulse for the market right now, where it's headed? Everybody's saying, we're crazy busy. These are good times. For you specifically, what are you excited about? What are the challenges?
Supply chains definitely cause some issues, but that's everywhere.
Is that lead time and costs, or other issues as well?
Both lead time and cost. So you have situations in Montreal, manufacturers are now getting staff. It's been really rough on those. Like my manufacturers are based there. Yeah. For the most part, the supply is now coming back to normal. Again, using manufacturers that are Canadian based are very helpful, making sure that they can do everything as they can. The fun thing for me is because I represent Atlantic Canada, you're dealing with 4 different markets, all in different situations. So like Newfoundland is doing fantastic right now. I can't get over how busy they are. Really? It was surprising.
Okay.
But then you have Halifax, where it slowed down recently. So, and then New Brunswick starting to pick up. So that's the fun thing about Atlantic Canada. It's all these ups and flows that are going through the industry.
And so for your entry point and to be involved in a project, are you spending most of your time staying in this part of the circle and more macro, starting to talk to architects to get spec'd on that project? Are you talking to contractors to educate them on the products and what they could be using in lieu of for an alternate? Or are you just kind of a little bit of everything?
100%.
Education basically sums it up.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of everything. It's just helping people understand the best solution for those projects, making sure that they're getting the client what they actually need. Yeah. That's one of the biggest focuses right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time, Tim, to chat with us, and we'll look forward to seeing the progress and enjoying the rest of the day here at BuildGreen Atlantic.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Okay, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast here on site at BuildGreen Atlantic at the Halifax Convention Center. And I'm joined by Cameron Benedict with Energy Network Services. Thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. I appreciate your time, and like I gave your flowers a bit earlier, I appreciate the pod and learning more about the industry around here, and, you know, soak up as much as I can through osmosis as I'm driving around or stuck on the bridge.
Exactly.
It's nice to, you know, learn about all the different companies that are, you know, building where we live.
We appreciate that, our team here, and yeah, just the fact that we can shed light on people that maybe aren't here all the time, or just trying to get to know some familiar faces and names in the company, in different companies within the industry. So that's great to hear. Cameron, tell us a little bit about, you know, your background and about Energy Network Services, basically an electrical contractor. National wide. You've got teams here in Atlantic Canada.
Yeah, so we specialize in LED lighting retrofits. So we have a team of team of electricians and technicians that'll, you know, design a plan to help save businesses money by converting their older lighting technologies to LED.
Okay.
So for example, we've done a lot of indoor sporting facilities, from tennis to soccer, and the savings are substantial a lot of the times.
So your team is involved in the design phase of these retrofits for these existing buildings in tandem with an architect, or is a client coming to you directly?
So we have a team of engineers that actually, will take care of the design. We'll come into businesses, do a little assessment, literally count every lamp, every fixture, take photos, extensive audit. It's actually free, so it's a complimentary audit, and that way our team of engineers can take a look at it and, you know, help understand what your energy usage is, what your lighting maintenance schedule is, and from there we can provide them, like, you know, a little return on investment proposal that shows, hey, if you switch, you know, all your lamps to LED, not only are you going to improve your lighting, but you're going to reduce your energy and lighting maintenance costs by, you know, X, Y, Z.
Right. And
so
then all of a sudden you have a building that's 30-40% more sustainable.
Absolutely, yeah. And like, that's not an unreasonable number.
Right.
We've had builds that became, you know, 57% more energy efficient, which, you know, for some businesses, that's, in that specific example, that was $18,000 a year in energy savings, to go along with, you know, much less maintenance from, you know, literally switching out light bulbs. So yeah, it's great. And we, so it's fun. Saving people money is always nice. You know, improving their environment and their space while also putting money in their pocket. It's pretty fun to, you know.
You're bringing value on a lot of different levels, right?
Exactly, yeah. So we work well with Efficiency Nova Scotia. I don't know if you can see it, or I guess it's a pod. So
what are the benefits of being a preferred partner with Efficiency? I mean, there's lots of them out there. Maybe a little context on how that partnership has elevated your business.
Yeah, it's been really great. I mean, from the training that they provide online, whether it be like free training or subsidized, that's been excellent. Of course, I mean, helping out with the rebates has been huge. So for, you know, a small business, or even any business, medium, larger, it's not easy to do a full retrofit. You know, it can be quite expensive. So, you know, having those rebates are crucial to helping businesses, you know, compete on a, you know, provincial or global level.
Right.
So yeah, they've been an incredible resource for, you know, marketing, training, and also, of course, just, you know, the rebates and, you know, lead generation as well.
Yeah, and
so
the
we're
whole educational side, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Cameron, you mentioned your head office in Richmond Hill outside of GTA. Is that where you're from personally?
No, so I grew up in Halifax, just outside in Sackville.
Right.
So yeah, Sack Vegas, Nova Scotia.
Love it, love it. So you mentioned, you know, your crew, your team in Atlantic for Energy Network Services. You're doing work, you know, in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much PEI, Newfoundland, over there a bit. I'm sure.
We've done some work there. It's just you know, a little bit more travel involved, but we've definitely had some successful projects in those areas too.
Are there any projects, maybe locally or New Brunswick in the HRM, that you're able to mention recently that you've carried out for these LED retrofits? Like, you're focused on LED and lighting control, right? That's mainly.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, It was a tennis facility, the Abney tennis facility in Fredericton.
Okay.
So yeah, we did a full LED retrofit for them.
Is it an indoors tennis
Yeah,
complex?
so it's an indoor tennis complex. We do outdoors as well, but indoor tennis, we actually improved their lighting by 287%. So they achieved I'm going to forget the acronym, but it's like the United States tennis levels. You know, with sporting, there's different levels of lighting.
Lighting's so important, right?
Yeah.
I was going to ask before you mentioned that, maybe a good segue. Must have been some pretty specific specs on these kind of lights. Do you recall what they were, or just to have the right playing atmosphere, the right light?
Yeah, exactly. So the more competitive the league, of course, the higher standard of lighting. If it's going to be filmed, then there's different standards or higher standards that have to be met. So yeah, we took them up to the the standard that they were looking for, which actually was just under 300% more lighting, and it actually ended up reducing their energy consumption from their lights by 57%.
Wow.
So they get the benefit of having higher standard of lighting, and they actually saved, I think it was about $18,000 a year on their energy bills. So yeah, it didn't take too long for them to get the return on investment. I mean, it was immediate with the quality of lighting, but then they're saving money on energy bills and also lighting maintenance costs. So they're very happy, and as a sports fan myself, I always particularly like working in those sporting facilities because I'm always just interested in anything that has to do with a ball or a puck.
I think we can all
anything.
relate to that in the industry. One of the funnest parts is when you're involved in a project that it's going to be used but for something that you're passionate about. Whether it's a hockey rink, an arena, a new fitness complex, tennis courts, same idea. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely is.
So at an event like this, where the focus is, BuildGreen Atlantic here at the Convention Center in Halifax with, net zero and just, everyone's focus being on energy savings and, less carbon footprints, all kinds of new materials, renewable. You mentioned something about EV chargers. Is that something that you see included on most newer major projects now, an EV unit for charging it within parkades and stuff like that? Because that's a service you provide as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's gaining a lot of traction, and more and more companies are getting asked themselves to include it, whether it's an apartment building or a commercial business. And sometimes it's quite easy.
Is it every parking spot, or is it like you think it'll be code where you need to have for every 100 parking spots 10 EV chargers? Or...
I think you nailed it. I think it's 10%. I don't know if I don't think it's code here yet, but we're seeing in other areas of the country and the United States where the sweet spot is probably like 10 to 15, 20% of parking spots at least have to have the infrastructure ready for the EV charger to go in. So any new builds in some places have to have the conduit and the wire ran. Just to future proof, because it's always much more efficient to it's harder to dig into existing concrete for sure. So
well, listen, thank you, Cameron, for stopping by for a few minutes. Anything else you want to touch on just to kind of get out there for Energy Network Services for awareness or anything? Or
we do all sizes of businesses. I like to promote that we do all the boring work, so we get pre-approval for the Efficiency Nova Scotia rebates, which are substantial right now.
Right.
And so we make it as hassle-free as possible. It's a free assessment, so it costs you nothing. We come in for a day, we count everything. We get it pre-approved, and then we come back to you and say, this is it. If you want to go forward with it, perfect, we can do that. If not, there's not really any consequence to that either. So
sure. And so in closing, an event like this where you can feel the awareness, you can feel where net zero is really on the forefront of everyone's thinking. How does that feel for you for the future with these LED and lighting control retrofits. I'm sure that that's a positive thing for your business and your service.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great to see everybody here. I was actually previously in the solar industry, which is also, you know, a fantastic industry to be in, and a lot of great people. So I'm very optimistic about what the future holds. I mean, LEDs and solar are actually essentially the same technology, just on the inverse. They're both silicon wafers that have, you know, little diodes. So the technology continues to improve, and, you know, I'm on the end of saving energy, and, you know, solar, other technologies are coming along that produce energy that don't emit carbon. So I think we have a lot to look forward to. And I'm personally, I'm very optimistic about the future and our energy resiliency. And I'm happy to be here. And it's always interesting to learn and talk to people that are, you know, engaged in, you know, making our environment more comfortable to live in.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking the time, Cameron, and for sharing some of your thoughts with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dan.
Cheers. Okay, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast here on site at BuildGreen Atlantic at the Halifax Convention Center. And I'm joined for a few minutes by Dale Hume with Thermtest. Dale, thank you for taking a few minutes and stopping and chat with us.
Thanks for chatting.
Can we start by maybe just a little bit about your background personally in the industry, and then a little bit about Thermtest?
Sure. We're out of Fredericton, New Brunswick. Our company is 18 years old. We manufacture scientific instruments that measure thermophysical properties of materials, how they conduct heat. So we're here to just learn more about the space of the building envelope and efficiency of insulation and use in those buildings.
Okay.
We have a new technology that we've licensed from NRC to measure the R value non-destructively of low slope roofs, flat roofs. So what it allows the user of the instrument to be able to do is to put it on top of a building and measure non-destructively, so you're not cutting into membranes. You're not, currently what they do is actually cut sections out of roof and test them in a lab. Okay. Obviously that's not desirable because you break the envelope. So non-destructively testing from a flat roof what the R value is, with the idea being that you have its new performance, but how does it change over time? How does it change the degradation of the insulation, or the effects of assembly, or the effects of moisture? Was it assembled in the rain? Does that affect the performance of that insulation over time? Right. There's a knowledge gap of true performance of insulation on low slope roofs, which there's millions of square feet just in Canada, right, and the performance of that. So this gives the knowledge to the building owner to make decisions to add more insulation or to renovate, replace. It gives them a number for that performance.
Because that's a big decision for building asset owners, right? Is it replace? Is it repair? I think there's the 3 R's, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not, and then the cost difference, and then the longevity of their investment.
And the drivers are different. The drivers are economic, or you want to reduce waste. There's a lot of drivers that now are more important than ever. Right. And there's the amount of waste through the building roof is unknown really, but heat rises. So if there's a 10% in R value of a roof insulation versus a wall, you're going to have more of that effect from the roof because heat rises. Yeah. And it takes the simplest path. So the effect of degradation of insulation or the degradation of performance is measurable, so that the smart decisions can be made, whether you add more or replace, and even on new buildings, such as verifying performance that you purchased.
Right.
For that insulation.
Yeah, that's an important part.
Users are architects and designers, building maintenance for federal, provincial, municipal, owners of large square footages of buildings that want to maintain a certain efficiency. There's a wide range of uses.
Yeah, and I feel like the roof, especially, I mean, the whole building envelope, but the roof in general, especially, is such a big part of the building envelope, the air tightness, the quality of the building, which ties into why we're here, you know, net zero. Energy efficient, green buildings. You know, when you're talking about you know, these low pitched roofs, is that the term that you use?
Low slope.
Low slope.
When we first started, we say flat, but the proper terminology is low slope.
Is low slope. Okay, so you're dealing with testing on a lot of bitumen roofs then, right? A lot of flat roof assemblies, could be EPDM.
Multi-layered of insulation of various types, some here, some here. And there's many more than that.
Right. So this testing method, this new testing method, how is it different in lieu of older ones that would affect?
There was no older ones.
Right,
The older ones was simply a physical inspection.
Yeah.
And in more than that,
simply a physical where they open up the roof.
They open up the
then
roof
patch
and
it
look
up
for
again.
change in thickness,
Yeah.
but they don't measure any real R value. The only way they could get R value measurements would be to cut a section out and take it to the lab,
Yes.
which happens very infrequently. So it's interesting in our discussions with many sort of stakeholders in building envelope, if the roof doesn't leak water, it's fine.
Exactly, right?
That's
the
only
milestone that
part.
the building asset owner's
Exactly.
looking for, right?
Yep.
And they're just going to get someone to come
They
and do
keep paying the bill.
do a
with-
thermotest if they
Yep.
have to. Yeah.
Which happens very infrequently. So they keep paying the bill like we all do, because you're not really knowing. But if somebody came along and said, you know, you're paying 50% more in energy because of this thing, and here's the number that shows you, and you go out and engage an architect on design to give you the plans how to make it better, how to change that back to an existing R value or a higher performing, it's knowledge.
Especially on so many big retrofits that are happening in commercial institutional buildings across Atlantic.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think about the heat loss and the energy savings through the roof assembly. So this technology for Thermtest, you're selling this technology to building sciences groups, as a product to use for testing, to building owners, asset owners.
That's the plan.
Right.
So the idea is that we make this tool available to those that want to understand the performance of a building. So that can be engaged by engineering firms, that can be engaged by different levels of government, that can be engaged by designers of buildings.
Why not roofing companies?
Roofing companies, of course, especially those, those assessment groups that assess based off of other already existing means of efficiency.
A lot of building assessment groups out there.
Absolutely.
Calculating lots of things.
And we've seen a sort of a wide cross-section of approaches across Canada, which is very interesting. So, and then you have sort of even the manufacturers of insulation and other components that are used in a building. They're going to want to know how their material performs long-term in situ.
Yeah.
That's the difference. The long-term prediction models are used for laboratory testing. That's not the same as a building that has 2 feet of snow on it, or has a certain amount of rain, or has temperature cycles on and off.
Yeah.
Or any number of sophistications.
There's a lot of people here at this event from Central Canada. How different is our climate for a roof, especially, than
British Columbia to
a landlocked province, right?
Yeah. And all the humidity changes. Or you have a damaged roof that has water ingression for 3 days.
Right.
And you seal it back up. You seal the water back into a closed system. Right. And that water just moves top and bottom depending on the delta T. That affects the performance of everything that's inside of it from an R value point of view. Yeah. So in addition to just measure the R value of a roof, it could potentially be used for detecting certain area effects.
Improving the manufacturing process as well.
Maybe. Certainly the assembly, the on-site assembly, the impact of maybe assembling something in rain as a one example.
Right. And so you mentioned Thermtest head office in New Brunswick.
Yep, Fredericton.
Kind of a presence throughout Atlantic Canada as far as...
we're an export company.
The nature of your business
So the nature of our business is global. We have an office, an owned office in Taiwan so we have Thermtest Asia, which looks after our business in all of Asia. They work on our behalf to make our products known in Asia. And then we have a Thermtest Europe, which is located in Sweden. We have key people in each of those locations. They do the same for all of Europe. We have that in Latin America for Latin America.
What number of employees are with Thermtest? Would you say, like how big of a company are we talking about here?
And people-wise?
Yeah, people-wise.
Globally approaching 50. So a small company still.
Yeah.
We have found that given the specialty nature of what we make, we need the expertise.
So there's mostly technicians and engineers?
Yep. Okay. As well as smart business people. We have a super talented group of all levels of different backgrounds. We have a very unique facility in Fredericton. All of our manufacturing is done there.
Tell us about the facility, some of the specifics and details about that.
It's very fitting. We have a 15,000 square foot building. It's all ICF construction. I'm not sure if you know what that is.
Of course,
but that's 3 inches of foam and 6 inches of reinforced concrete and 3 inches of foam.
And the full envelope is ICF?
The full envelope is ICF, 14-foot walls.
I seen another commercial building is a brewery on the Bedford Highway here that's full ICF.
Wow.
And I hadn't seen that on a commercial building or
It's
manufacturing.
unique.
I've seen it on
Because of the
houses.
investment, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All of our lighting comes from borrowed light, so they're 12-inch tubes that go to the roof and brings the sunlight in. So we have windows, but a reduced number because it's a highly efficient building. Highly efficient.
So have you achieved a certification with the building?
We've actually sort of, from this meeting, we're learning more also about that area. So I'm very tempted to bring one of those companies that do that certification.
Qualify as passive house.
It fits
net zero.
what we're trying to do and provide for other companies. Slightly different way, but I think it fits. So I think we perform well. Our power bill shows that. Given the square footage, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's something we will probably do.
Yeah, and so you're manufacturing there the product for this technology, the testing
amongst other products related, thermal physical properties. So our company in general measures how materials conduct heat, everything from fluids used in automotive and electric vehicles to composites used in manufacturing of polymers. So across the board, worldwide.
So in the ICI construction world, other than the roof technology for testing for R values and insulation, are there some other key points in commercial construction that you're kind of focused on with?
We make a line of heat flow meters. Heat flow meters are a laboratory version of measuring R value for a 1 foot square and up to 4 inches thick piece of anything. So we see wood composites, we see insulation on organic materials, that people are trying to do more green versions of what's available commercially constantly. And that's thrilling environment because it's so leading edge. People are very creative with what they can insulate with. This takes
used
that
to be newspaper and seaweed.
Right?
At one time.
I've seen corn husks and jeans.
Really?
Ground up jeans. There's a wide variety. And you know what? Some of them are pretty good performing. It's not just let's try it. Some of them are very unique and good insulators. And they'll find a spot. You know what I mean? Like they'll find people that want that product. So I think that innovation is pretty amazing, and Space's timing's good. This takes that same capability and takes it and puts it on a roof. That gives knowledge in a way right now isn't being generated. So it's pretty cool. We're excited to be part of it.
Yeah, this is great, Dale. Before we close, anything you want to touch on behalf of Thermtest to kind of bring awareness, or just your general thoughts on today, having so many people from so many different backgrounds in Atlantic Canada gathering for a common goal toward net zero in the path?
I think it's a good show for us, especially in the Maritimes. This is a Canadian technology where it's Canada first. So we're engaging as many levels of stakeholders as we can. This is a great place to meet a bunch of those all in one place. So the creation of awareness of it, activities like this do that. And I'm kind of an old guy in this business, and getting into that and understanding the power of much of the stuff that you need to be able to do to get things known nowadays, it is powerful. So what we're trying to still do good science and good measurements, that's first, but get it known so that when we, in the first year, we're looking to just engage its use and make sure we're making good science measurements that we can stand behind and that the product does what it's supposed to do, and let the rest follow. Because I think this knowledge is useful. So this show is good to talk to a bunch of people that are interested in what we do.
Amazing.
So
we're excited to just get a little snapshot and shed a bit of light to our audience. But thank you so much, Dale, for your time. Pleasure talking.
Pleasure as well.
Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. Here on site at BuildGreen Atlantic at the Halifax Convention Center. And I'm joined for a few minutes by Roxanne Tate with Tate Engineering. Thanks for taking a few minutes to sit and chat with us, Roxanne. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's great to be here today.
Yeah, it is. It's been a great event. Lots of great guest speakers, and good to see so many different perspectives and backgrounds, from suppliers to installers to nonprofit educational motives and organizations here talking about net zero and green building. Can you tell us how you started Tate Engineering and what was the goal to get it off the ground?
Yeah, well, there's a longer story behind how I started it and why I started, but I've always had a passion for the environment, environmental sustainability, and doing my part to reduce my load, my carbon footprint. And when I was starting my family, working out of the home became a little more challenging. I wanted flexibility. By the time our third child came along, we decided that let's, I'll do it. I'll start a business, right? And
so is that one of the reasons, not to interrupt, but is that one of the reasons that sustainability became in the forefront of your thinking, or was it always there? Or having children, thinking about the next generation?
It was always there, but it became forefront. Having children and thinking about what does the future look like for them. Absolutely, without a doubt. And that's what drives me every day to get up and do what I do.
Sure.
So I thought about what are my skills? What can I do? What am I good at and what's going to have an impact? And energy management just rose to the top. And so I started the business doing energy management, doing energy audits, multi-unit residential, affordable housing applications. And it grew from there, right? Because when you're passionate about what you're doing and you're doing it for good reason, it's easy to build your business, right? It's easy to talk about it. It's easy to sell it. And green building is, it's here. It's now. Yeah,
that's amazing. We talk about energy audits. You're an engineering firm. Can you tell us what that led to, what the business has evolved to at this point, and where you see it heading within that space of green energy, net zero?
Sure. My husband's also an engineer, and he's been in the construction industry since he was 14 years old and got involved in project management. We saw a lot of synergies, him as an owner's representative and me as an energy manager doing work on owners' behalves, trying to help them with their operations, and he's looking at the building development side of things. And it's all connected. And so we, every evening we have great conversations about what goes on in our business, and the synergies between that was huge.
Between engineering design and the building process?
And the operations, right? And so we're always feeding each other and making sure that we're giving our clients the best value and thinking of, not just what is it going to cost to build your building, what's it going to cost to operate it as well, and integrating those decisions into the decision-making process and that information. So having that skill set under one roof has been really valuable.
Yeah, I feel like, you're looking at building assets in that term as an asset, talking about the longevity of a building. Some people might be thinking, this product lasts 25 years, but these buildings, realistically, it's 60 years, maybe 60 years minimum. The cost of operation is far higher most of the time, I think, than the cost of building.
Definitely.
So you're looking really far out on what products are being used, energy consumption. What are the main points you're focused on with Tate Engineering as far as mechanical systems? Is it, the building envelope? I guess, there's a few big ones that everybody's focused on. But
well, I always go back to first principles, and I think of reduce, reuse, and recycle. So the very first step is to reduce demand, first and foremost. Get that building envelope insulated to the optimal level, make it airtight, because then you're going to have a durable structure as well. If you do those two parts right, you have durability and you have that longevity in the building life cycle. So that's really important. So that's where we start, is reduce. And then right size your mechanicals, right? Make sure your occupants are comfort. It's a healthy environment. That's really critical as well.
There's a lot that goes into that, right? With air quality, different mechanical systems, different units, different methods. It's such a vast arena.
It certainly is. And there's such a wealth of knowledge out here in the province of Nova Scotia in those fields, in architecture and mechanical design. And so we look to partner and bring those people on board to work with the owners as well, like-minded individuals who are going to help make those decisions and do things a little bit differently, maybe think outside the box.
How, for someone like yourself, we've started this with a lot of different motives involved. Tate Engineering, one for, that's your background and that's your business and your livelihood. It's also a big part of the business is to play your part in green energy, in reducing your carbon footprint, in net zero, path to net zero. Also for your children and the next generation, the passion you have. When you're at an event like this and you see everybody gathering with the same goals and motives in mind, collaborating and stuff, how does it make you feel for the future?
Yeah, I'm excited. I really am. To see how the industry has grown, we've been in business for 11 years, and to see how the room has filled up compared to when I first started to come to these types of events, it's just amazing. It's inspiring, it's motivating.
Tell us, so when you first started to come to events like this, say in the last, decade period or 5-10 years.
Mm-hmm.
We have hundreds of people here.
Yeah.
And earlier on, it was much less, right? Just
Absolutely. You almost knew every face in the room.
right.
It is a close-knit community.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is even though it's grown so much, people still know each other and they're willing to collaborate.
Yeah.
That's what's really cool about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It feels like we're on the right track here in the province.
Yeah.
For this huge issue that is here now. Appreciate you taking the time. Is there
You're
anything
welcome.
you wanna plug or anything you want to mention in closing for Tate Engineering, just for awareness for people who maybe haven't heard of it?
Oh, I mean, yeah, sure, I could throw a plug in there, but really what I'm all about is promoting doing the right thing.
Right.
Making our way to net zero and doing it in any way that works for you. Right? Not everybody's going to have the same solution. There's many ways to get there,
right.
And I just want to see more people doing it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Roxanne. It's been a
You're
pleasure
welcome.
to chat with you.
Likewise.
Cheers.
It's great.
Hey, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. We're here on site at the Halifax Convention Center at Build Atlantic. And we have our guest today, Vinny Cormier.
Yeah.
From Atlantic Woodworks. Thanks for stopping by, Vinny, for a couple minutes to chat with us.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you very much for listening to us a little bit.
So just tell us a little bit about the goal of Atlantic Woodworks and what's kind of the mission statement for the organization.
Well, we are a not-for-profit organization, and our goal is to promote and educate about wood, specifically for non-residential and multi-unit projects. So we speak with all the stakeholders, architects, engineers, developers, government, and we
kind of try and infiltrate the design process at that
exactly,
point, right?
Exactly. So we provide technical support as well. So if people, I really would like to build this with wood, we think it would match our project, we think we did our budget and the costing and it looks great, but I have this challenge with code, I don't know really how it goes, would adapt. So we have like contact with the code specialists in Ottawa, so we would like try to help in any way that we can to make their wood project happen, right?
Right.
So
when people hear wood, if our listeners maybe are not as familiar with the industry or familiar with Atlantic Woodworks, you're thinking 2x4s, you might be thinking woodworking, might be thinking cabinetry and millwork, mass timber. Maybe just kind of explain, within the realm of wood and buildings, what area are you most concerned with at Atlantic Woodworks? It's more the structural side of the wood element.
Exactly.
In the buildings, right?
Yes, exactly. Our main focus is for wood as a structural material. So we have the usual the dimensional lumber that would comprise your regular 2x4, 2x6s. So with that, you're gonna have like, as it's called, light wood framing construction, and in lots of cases, this might be the most cost-efficient way of building. So and recently on the 2015 National Building Code, now you can go up to 6 stories of light wood frame construction.
Right.
So that's how you see it was a little kind of a boom of mid-rise buildings, 6 stories with light wood framing for the past 2 or 3 years.
And that would be in lieu of, say, like structural steel or concrete.
Or concrete, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's usually faster. It's usually it's a technology that's way ingrained in our culture already. So it's very cost efficient for a region. And there's also the mass timber. Mass timber, it's a technology that we're starting to hear about it not too long ago, but it's been there for a while, especially in Europe. It's a very developed in Europe, and but now we are changing our building codes. We're adapting for that new kind of technology, right? And mass timber is basically when you have wood elements and glue it together to achieve the best properties that you need, like strength-wise and resilience and everything related to that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's there's a lot of tradition there, a lot of buildings, older buildings. If you look around Halifax, if you look around, and I think it'd be the same for every province, you go into a lot of the older buildings downtown, a lot of the restaurants, different social, public spaces in the commercial realm, and you see the open exposed ceiling, you know, wood beams. And joists, and there's an aesthetic value. There's like a natural component to it. So it's like, and I think, you know, for a while we kind of got away from that, and now it seems to be coming back. Whether it's the code or whether it's something that architects are considering for aesthetics, and you know all the different variables that are involved. But yeah, you definitely see a lot of corporations having their own mass timber division. That they're developing now. It kind of ties into modular a bit too, because they're being manufactured, come to site,
exactly.
Things like that, so.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been building the way we are for the last 80 years or so. There's not much development in a way of like productivity or in a way of methods, or like the carpenter 80 years ago was doing basically the same thing that they do these days.
Yeah.
So we, in order to increase the productivity and the saving time and be safer for the worker, like people were looking for solutions, and one of these solutions are the offsite construction, right? So we see this movement now for panelized building. So like you are like your walls or your floor cassettes, they are manufactured outside of the construction site. And so and the same with mass timber, like mass timber is cut to shape and with all the CNC machining, and it's very like tight tolerances.
Right.
So everything's manufactured
it's manufactured in the same way that steel would be.
In a way,
shop in a way.
In a way, yeah. So it comes to, in a sense that it comes to site ready to install. So they manufacture the panels, they put it in a truck in the right order. All the panels are like have the numbers and have its sizes.
It's almost like it's kitted. It comes in a kit.
It's like Lego, yeah. And then a truck goes to the construction site. A crane picks it up in order, like in the right order that it's gonna be laid on the site, and it makes like everything faster and organized, safer, quieter.
Yeah.
There's like many advantages like that.
So for a selling point, and I don't just mean monetization, dollar-wise or currency, when you say, or you're dealing with a project, maybe an architect's interested, a public building, or a client who's interested in mass timber, interested in lots of wood elements, interested in it because of the sustainability, because of the aesthetics, but they're considering cost, they're considering budget, schedule. What's the main selling points, for you at Atlantic Woodworks when you're involved in a project to say, here's the benefits of using mass timber?
Yeah. Well, you touched the most critical points on that. So sustainability. So to produce the wood from the raw material to the building material,
the full carbon
footprint of a wood product is way smaller than any steel or concrete.
Right.
On top of that, you have the carbon offset. So like a tree traps carbon dioxide on the tree the carbon life cycle. So you have carbon in the air, the tree stores it, and then if in nature and not, the tree is gonna fall, and with time, and it's gonna be deteriorated, and the carbon gonna go to the soil and to the atmosphere again. So this is whole carbon life cycle. When you take the wood from the tree and put into the building or furniture or whatever product, so you're offsetting that for the lifetime of the building. So instead of the carbon going to the atmosphere right now, that we are in a crisis, it's going to be stored for the next 6 or 80 years there. And if you build for deconstructions, it's something that's coming up right now as well. People are paying more attention to that. You can reuse that in the future some way. So
as far as cost goes, is it like, can you make the statement on average it's 10 to 15% more expensive to build mass timber as opposed to structural steel or concrete?
It's a tricky question because
statement.
Yes,
it's not going to cover
is.
every situation.
No, and it's case by case, but it's not as expensive as people might think at first, especially right now after the price of the wood during COVID. So it was skyrocketing, and people say everything related to wood is so expensive. Imagine this building that is basically like huge, massive pieces of wood. It's going to be super expensive. And at the time, yes, but not anymore.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to tell you, oh, it's more expensive, no, it might not be, because other building materials are having problems with the supply chains as well. Sure. It's kind of having the price increase, so it would be case by case, but it's
and lots of supply in lots of demand, but lots of supply in the mass timber realm too. Lots of forestry in Canada for sure.
For sure, yeah, we have this huge forestry sector here, which is very important for our economy, and also if there's the aspect like if you try to keep it here, right? Try to keep it local instead of buying steel from other countries abroad. Like there's that element, and most people feel very good about it.
Maybe down to the species of wood. I mean, what species typically are used in these structural laminated beams and joists and components? Is it oak? Is it?
It's softwood.
It's all softwood.
Yeah, it's all softwood.
Okay, right. So where would the closest manufacturing or large manufacturing operation for mass timber be? Are there ones in Atlantic Canada like that, or like maybe just smaller ones for private modular companies that are trying to integrate into that space, or are there some large manufacturing firms in Atlantic Canada, or is it Quebec?
No, unfortunately, we don't have currently any mass timber manufacturing in Atlantic Canada. The closest ones would be Quebec and Ontario.
Right. And so these manufacturing plants are taking product, softwood from a mill, and then it's going there, and at that point they're manufacturing it into the structural components, or is it coming right from the forest into the mass timber plant?
No, they go to a mill first. Yeah. Well,
so some like kiln dried and similar things to what happens with hardwood, or
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a certain humidity level, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And the humidity level for engineered wood products is a little lower than your regular softwood.
9% kind of thing, or
it's like 12%.
12%, right? But still much lower than like the 20%.
The 19 from yes.
Which, okay. Yeah. No, it's very interesting. So I mean, a lot of people, I think, are into you look at a lot of bars, for example, in our cities in Atlantic Canada, a lot of countertops, live edge, a lot of wood products, like I said before, exposed wood beams, exposed ceilings, all wood, timber. It's a natural look. There's like a psychology behind the design sometimes, right? Where you can incorporate that. It's not just sustainable for the environment. It's not just a good way to structurally build a building, but the aesthetics and the feel of a natural product, as opposed to, in the room we're in now, which is all kind of fabricated.
Yeah,
it's not natural, right?
Exactly. There's even like a name for that is biophilia, right? And back into exactly like you mentioned, like all the good tops of it. So it's using wood is good because there's the sustainability aspect of it. There's the biophilic aspect of it. That's the time saving when erecting the building. There's the similarity, like wood, you can build the same type of building that you build with steel or concrete. We can do it as well with wood, even if it's mass timber or light wood framing. You can do that. You have to plan a little bit ahead and change your layout because of grid sizes or things like that. But you can do anything that you want.
So there's lots
as long as you plan it.
Lots of benefits. Probably a little bit of resistance to change in Atlantic Canada, as often there is. It's a changing on a continuum. So hopefully more people come on board. Is there any projects you're able to mention that you're working on now, or I think we talked earlier about one here in the city on Kennard Street.
Exactly, yeah.
Fowler Baldwin Mitchell as an architect is involved, and could you use that and kind of just give us an example to finish up on what your role is in that project and a little bit of info on the project?
Yeah, so FBM, they are doing this residential and office mixed 5-story mass timber building here in Kennard Street.
What phase is it at now? Just digging a hole now, or coming out of the ground at all? Or?
No, if you go there, you're gonna be able to see the glue lamp columns.
Okay.
And there's like glue lamp floors too.
So if any of our listeners are listening to this on Spotify or Apple and they're driving right now,
yeah, just take a peek at it.
It's take a look at what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You can see there. It looks amazing, and so if you were able to be there during erection, you would see how fast they can put the glue lamp beams and columns and the floor, the glue lamp floors on that too. Like it goes one on top of each other like Lego, and it's very interesting.
That's great. Well, thanks, Vinny, for stopping by and just sharing with us about Atlantic Woodworks and a little quick kind of info session 101 on mass timber and stuff. So yeah, we appreciate your time, and we'll have hopefully have a great rest of the day here at BuildGreen Atlantic.
Oh, no, thank you for having me.
Cheers. This episode is brought to you by Cook Insurance, your trusted insurance broker in Atlantic Canada for 50 years. Insurance is complex, and the Cook team focuses on delivering comprehensive solutions for your construction needs, including builder's risk, wrap-up liability, performance bonds, and project-specific construction. A Navicord partner since 2020, Cook is one of the largest construction brokers in Canada and offers national strength with a local touch. Whatever your insurance needs are, Cook has you covered.
The team at Atlantic Construction Podcast have been able to build a strong relationship with the folks over at FCA Surety. FCA Surety is heavily engaged in supporting the Atlantic construction marketplace and helping contractors to build their businesses, and we can't recommend them enough. While FCA has their head office in Ontario, many of the members of their team have lived in Atlantic Canada and worked in the construction community here. This gives them a unique national perspective with a local flavor. Andrew Cartwright leads FCA's national surety operations as Vice President of Surety. Their knowledge of the bonding marketplace and understanding of how insurance companies view your business is unparalleled. In addition, the depth of their team and reach across Canada gives them the ability to draw on numerous experiences to help clients navigate items like subtrade, construction disputes, liens, and supplier risk management. These are the things that separate FCA Surety from the pack. Make sure to give the guys a call over at FCA Surety for all of your bonding and surety needs.